Oh my God, I cannot get him out of my head. I can't stop crying. The pain is intense. Hi, welcome. My name is Stacy, and in today's video, I want to talk to you about how affair withdrawals affect recovery. And they're bad. If you're new here, welcome. If you're returning, I'm glad to see you again. Let's talk a little bit about affair withdrawals, what they are, what the symptoms are, how long they last, and how it affects recovery. Now, affair recovery is a stage. It is a process, meaning there's a beginning and there's an end. So when I talk about how this or that affects recovery, because you will hear me talk about that a lot, I'm meaning that there is a phase to it. There is a stage, a timeline, and it's different for everyone. But the most important thing to know is that the one stage begins when the affair ends, and then the next stage when it ends is when you are completely healed. You're no longer in love with your affair partner, and if you have decided to reconcile with your spouse, then you guys are back together and you're living your best life. So that's the ending of recovery. Okay, so affair withdrawal really affects the process of recovery because we get stuck in a lot of what goes on with this, the symptoms and things like that. So I want to talk to you a little bit, let's touch a little bit, for those who may not know, on what affair withdrawal is. And it's a period of time after the affair ends where you go completely no contact, that you will experience emotional and physical symptoms from it. It's like being addicted to a drug. You know, it's like this, almost like the same thing an addict would go. Meaning once you cut it off and you go no contact, where you guys do not speak anymore, then the symptoms will start to set in. And you know, they look a little different than you might think. In Helen Fisher's book, Why We Fall in Love, she explains that when the brain is scanned on someone who is newly in love, and then if you scan someone who is a drug addict, they both light up in the same area of the brain. And that means that is how intoxicating we become to someone when we first start falling in love. Now, this won't happen for everyone. Let me just throw that out there. You know, some people will have an affair and it'll end and they'll both go their ways and they're fine. But this is for the people who are stuck, who the affair has ended, but you keep having a cycle where you keep going back to them, or they call you and then you answer the phone, and you know, you just stay in this cat and mouse chase, and the affair starts up again, and it could be like 3 months later. This is for you. This is what is going on. You're in this withdrawal phase and it's hanging you up. It's almost like walking and getting caught in quicksand. You know, you just can't get out, and the more you try, the more you struggle, the deeper you sink. So let's talk about a couple of affair withdrawal symptoms. Now, what I've done for you guys is I've created a checklist, and I will leave the link to that down below in the description box. It's free. You can go and you can download it and you can go through it. You can look at, you know, some of your symptoms, and that way you'll have them. You can say, oh, okay, I know. Well, I'm going through this. Yes, that's right. I'm going through withdrawal. Because when we are equipped with the knowledge to know what is going on with us, then that helps us to be able to say, okay, I recognize that I'm going through the withdrawal and this will pass if I don't give in to it. So the thing is, we don't want to give in to the symptoms. We want it to just subside, and the feelings and the urges and the desires that come up during this time passes away. You know, it fades out as we start to heal. So our main goal is to understand what's going on with this, and that way we can help combat not to give into those feelings. Now, if you get to the checklist and you read it and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm struggling with all of these things, and you don't know how to get out, sign up with me for a free chat, because I actually got stuck in this phase and I had to wind up getting myself out. And God gave me some great tools to help me go through it and like really move through it like I should have moved through it in the beginning. And completely just, you know, broke it off in my mind and just healed. And that's a lot of what I help my clients with. I help them to prevent the relapse, to prevent that, oh, I'm going to stalk you today. You know, that like, well, I wonder what you're doing. That type of thing. And then you go and you check and you get further down than you were before you even picked up the phone and looked at Facebook. So I help them overcome that, and I help them not to do that. So if you want help with that, sign up with me down below, and I would love to help get you to a stable place where you are living your best life. Okay, so let's go over a couple of the symptoms. 3 major symptoms is anger, depression, and anxiety. Now, I also want to point out that you will feel restless. You will feel discontent, you know, where you're just kind of like anxious, which anxiety, you know, you just can't settle down. You might, you know, be busy a lot trying to do all this stuff, but you really don't have any peace on the inside of you. You feel incomplete. You feel like something's missing, something's wrong. And all of that is a part of withdrawal as you start to break free from your affair partner. As your dopamine levels start to come back to a normal level where they're supposed to be, then that's when you'll start to feel that like, oh my gosh, I'm missing something. Something's wrong. I need to hear their voice. I need to talk to them. And it's almost becomes like a compulsion where you feel like you just have to do this. I have to call them. I have to email them. And it causes you like these urges and stuff. So that is some of what you can experience is those intense urges. You will experience pain. It's, you know, for me, I describe it as a pain I've never really felt before. You know, I've divorced before and I've had boyfriends and stuff, but this was so intense. It just was really overwhelming and I was really sad. You know, you will also come to the place where you feel numb. You know, you will feel like I just don't feel anything. I don't know what's going on with me. I just don't know what to do. And usually in times like that is when we will return back to what's familiar, return back to our affair partner. So we really want to be aware of what we're thinking, what's going on with us, why we don't want to have sex with our spouse if we're trying to reconcile, why are we crying during sex if we are attempting sex. You know, all of these things, all of this falls into line with the withdrawal phase. Now, it affects recovery because we don't know how to manage these intense emotions. And the urges that rise up, like I said, you know, there's urges to reach back out to your affair partner and you might not know how to respond to that. So we give into them and we start the affair back over again. And this is really where the cycle gets us stuck. The anxiety, the anger, the depression, the missing them, the stalking them, all of these things that come, the compulsion that come with the affair, that come with the withdrawal phase, is what propels us to reach out to them again, to try to get back to that place of where I feel some kind of normal, because you won't feel normal. You won't feel like yourself. So it's important to know that I don't feel like myself right now, but I will feel like myself, because if I give in, then the cycle is going to continue. Now, how long does this last? It can last from a few weeks to a few months, and it can even extend into years. You know, some people carry a torch for someone, and it's not that these physical symptoms and these emotions are raging like a wildfire, you know, after 6 months, because they're not. You know, let's talk about it chemically in our bodies. Our brain levels return back to normal, our hormones level out. You know, we're starting to move past some things, we're getting better, but yet there's also that place in our heart that holds on to them, holds on to fantasies, holds on to memories, and that keeps us not necessarily in that intense withdrawal phase that happens the first probably 30 days to 8 weeks. Not that part, but more so as I'm just staying in love with this person, or I'm letting the fire that I have for them, you know, smolder in my heart, and I'm just feeding it a little bit, and that will prevent recovery. Because to be honest, you want to get past recovery. You want to get past the part of maybe one day I will see them in the future. Maybe one day we'll get together. You don't want to live the rest of your life like that, because you're shortchanging yourself. You know, you can't fully commit to your husband. You can't enjoy where you're at. You're missing out on your kids. You can't be present while you're waiting for the future. So the future is actually stealing your today. And when you get to that day and you don't really know when that is or if that will even happen, think of the time that you would have lost, just holding out onto that hope. So we want to make sure we process through the recovery stage completely, and we let go completely, and we don't keep ourselves under like a low level of sadness when we're waiting, for them to return. We want to experience the joy that God has for us, the complete joy, where I feel content, I'm happy, I'm emotionally stable, I'm ready to give, someone else a chance at my heart, or I'm ready to reconcile with my spouse and really learn how to love the right way, that type of place. That's where you really want to be. Oh, sorry. I mean, some people will go through this quickly, okay? If you, depending on what stage of love you're in, I'm so sorry, I'm like choking on my own spit. Okay, so if you're like in the honeymoon phase, and I have another video coming out talking about this, but the honeymoon stage is where dopamine's at its highest and we're excited and all of that. And if it ended there, you might not feel like this huge relief. But sometimes in an affair, they go on for a while and it actually becomes a burden. So when it's over, you feel a sense of relief. That can also be a trap as well, because sometimes let me just say it this way, at the end of the affair, when the affair is coming to an end, you can tell because it's extremely painful to continue. It's almost like the pain of staying in it is worse than the joy that you're getting from it. So when it gets to that point and then it ends, you feel the sense of relief. But you want to beware, because coming up later, maybe a few weeks later, I call it the danger zone, which is when you're most vulnerable to infidelity, is around the 6 to 10 week mark. Coming up on that, reality is gonna start to set in, and you're gonna realize that it's over, and you're not gonna feel comfortable. Your normal is not gonna be what it was. You're gonna have to have a new normal. You're gonna have to get used to new things, and that's gonna be scary, and all the habits and stuff will have to be broken. So that's something to watch out for too. If you feel relief in the beginning, that's great. And if you can maintain that sense of relief, even like if you can maintain that up to 3 months or even up to 2 months, then that's great. It's a good sign you're moving forward. But if you have that sense of relief and then you notice that around 6 to 10 weeks, you're starting to feel antsy, you're starting to feel that irritation again, then that's telling me that, okay, it's time to really hone in on what's going on with you, because withdrawal is about to hit you again. Like it's gonna hit you at its hardest. And this is a lot of times what happens when we find people in relapse. It's like, okay, I had to call them. And this kind of happened to me because when I first ended the affair, don't get me wrong, I love this man, okay? For me, he was my everything. I was just so in love with him. So when I talk about getting over him, this is a big deal for me because it really was one of the hardest things I ever had to do. But in the beginning, once I ended the affair, it felt like a sense of relief because I wasn't lying. I wasn't living in deception. I had decided to go back to God, so I didn't have that conviction anymore. And I was sad. Don't get me wrong, I was sad. I was crying. I was depressed. I went through all these things. I was withdrawn. I just didn't really want to talk. Even though I felt that sense of relief that a burden had been lifted. But come 8 weeks, I had a couple of drinks, and probably more than a couple of drinks, because it was enough for me to grab my mother's phone and call him. Now, I had set boundaries around myself. I had, except for the drinking. I don't know why I didn't do that, but I didn't. And I called him, and The reason I was drinking that night was because it was starting to hit me that I wasn't going to see him or talk to him ever again. The reality that the affair was over was starting to hit me, and I was struggling to deal with that. So I was drinking to make myself feel better, to cope with the fact that I was realizing he was really gone. Like, my best friend was gone. That's what I was thinking, and it caused me to call him. So be careful of the danger zone, and be careful and aware if you feel like you feel a relief. You know, and some people do. Like I said, this isn't for everyone. You know who you are if you're in this place right now. So that is all I have for you today. I hope you found this helpful. If you have any questions, leave them down below. And yes, please check the box down below so you can go through the list of some more withdrawals. And I will see you in the next video. Bye.